Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Kevin here, top 1 financial advisor and best-selling author. We are here to talk about the stock market. Today we need to talk about real estate. And by real estate, I mean real estate investment trust. That is REITs. Now the S is for plural when you're talking about more than one REIT. But in either case, REITs tend to be one of the best places to invest every single year. But in 2022, things have been a little shaky depending on what REIT you're looking at. But also with the threat of recession, with the reality of inflation, and the reality of rising interest rates, does it make sense to invest in REITs now? And this is the question we need to walk through today. So in this video, I need to explain what REITs are, how they work generally, and then what REIT might make sense for you and whether or not it makes sense to invest in it now, and especially in 2023. So again, a REIT owns several different types of properties depending on the ones that you are particularly looking at. One example is Camden Property Trust, that is CPT, and they own apartment buildings. I have lived in a Camden property at one point in time, but they own major markets like Miami and Dallas, and in some places in New York where they say, look, this is our territory and we're going to own X amount of apartments. Now on paper, and I even covered this with myself, I put money into this with myself, and this was early in January. In fact, we did a video in January about REITs that made sense. And then the market turned, and then it was the Russia-Ukraine situation, and then inflation took off. And this is why you update your portfolio, because of things like this. But in either case, Camden property made sense on paper. Rents are still high. People are still looking for places to live. And they are still moving to Miami and Dallas and Houston and all these other places. So why is it still down the way that it is? And that is the crux of the situation. Every economy, or every year, the economy changes, the market changes, and what you're expecting for 2023, well, we don't know for sure what is going to happen. We do know that we are in a weird confluence of events. We've got 3 strange things happening at the same time. We don't have an exact answer. Like, I know you feel that there's going to be a recession, and I kind of feel it too. But it's not official, and the reason why it's not official is because we are getting some conflicting information. We know inflation was high, that we know. We know Americans are about 1/3 through all of the savings that built up from COVID. But then you just had the American Express CEO say, look, we don't see any major changes in spending, and they know because they have the credit card information and the merchant information on what people are spending on. And they say, I'm not seeing a slowdown in spending, which is obviously strange, because once you start seeing a drop in spending, then you know it's a recession coming, because the majority of our economy is based on consumer spending. We're a consumer economy. So you've got that going on. You know inflation is high. You know interest rates are going up, and that's slowing down some things. You've seen some industries start to slow down hiring, including Microsoft, but that's not everybody. It's not everybody, but you know, you're getting slowed down in some hiring, but you also get the jobs number. Jobs number is fine. So we got all these things going on at the same time. It's like, well, what do I do? Do REITs still make sense? The answer here is yes and no. The key thing is it depends on what REIT you are looking at. I thought that a REIT like Prologis, PLD, would have been solid because the economy, we were coming out of the pandemic and the economy was supposed to expand. People were supposed to produce more, which is true, but it's still down. It's still down, and that is, it's not necessarily panning out. The key thing here, though, is why are you looking for a REIT if that's what you want to focus on? In most cases, when you're expecting recession, you're expecting things to be choppy, you are doing it for the dividend. If you are doing it for the dividend, then that is still a place for you. That's like a 95% chance in my book, where if you're just looking for dividends, that's a place for you to go. The thing here is, if you're looking just for dividends, you really want to I would say, open up your palette and see what else is out there too. Because if I'm still looking for dividends, maybe I'm looking for genuine parts. We talked about that. That is GPC. They pay a solid dividend, and in fact, they've been paying a dividend for 66 consecutive years. Okay? 66 consecutive years. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the true stat is an increased dividend for 66 consecutive years. I'm gonna go back and double check that. I'll put it in the comments. But they've been paying dividends for longer than I've been alive, and I can almost guarantee you longer than any subscriber who's watching this channel has been alive. They've been paying dividends consistently. But also, Coca-Cola is on that list. Pepsi is on that list. Have been paying dividends for decades. And right now, if I'm comparing it to Camden Property, all three of those stocks have done better than those dividends. So you've got to pay attention to which one you're looking at and whether or not that particular REIT makes sense. But on paper, REITs as a whole are usually one of the best categories to invest in. They're one of the easiest to understand and explain in most cases. And again, usually they tend to do well. But this is just a weird market where you've got conflicting information. We don't know for a fact there's going to be a recession, even though we feel it. We don't always have the data outside of inflation to really confirm that, and inflation by itself does not cause a recession. However, the Fed could, and they keep raising rates, and then we kind of get into this weird circle of things that say like, yes, it's going to be a recession, but no, it's not, or we're just like on this weird teetering, thing to try and figure out. But in either case, a lot of REITs, even those that are on paper, have not done well. I talked about Camden Property. I talked about Iron Mountain. Iron Mountain is up about 9.1% in the last year, but they're down over the last 6 months, and it's down quite significantly, even though they're a solid company, a solid REIT that is not supposed to lose money in a time like this. At least you think it wouldn't. I think I talked about Prologis. That's POD. One that I invest in. Again, on paper, supposed to do quite well. Still pays a good dividend. I'll take a dividend. But still not doing what you would expect it to do. So the key here is be very careful about what REIT you're looking for. What I would not do is just pile into REITs blindly. You do also have a REIT index. I think that is VNQ. I'll put it here just to double check. That is one of the most popular Vanguard REIT tracking indices. So if REITs as a whole do well, this particular index does well if you don't want to pick a one REIT at a time. What we are going to do for our members though, I'm going to do the research and look at almost every REIT that is out there and start to map out which ones start to make sense. So we're going to do a list of about 5 to 7 at the end of this week. You want to be on top of that. So to do that, make sure you join the members only, and we'll break down which REITs make sense for this year and next year, and how do you kind of gauge what makes sense for you to decide what to invest in. One other thing, if you're thinking about investing in REITs, I still treat REITs like individual stocks, and it's because they act like individual stocks. So if you're asking yourself, well, how much of my portfolio should I put in REITs, I still do the 5% rule. So I try to have my overall portfolio in as a cap of 5% for that one individual stock. So if I got $100, then only 5% is going into Apple, and another 5% as a max is going into REIT number 1, REIT number 2. Now, if you're asking how much should I have in my entire portfolio of each individual REIT or what have you, there's no true rule for that, but I would probably stay anywhere. I would say probably a max of 30% of your total portfolio should be comprised of REITs as a whole, and that is a max. It's not a mandate, so be careful there, because in some markets REITs are absolutely amazing, in other markets it may not be, so be careful there. But it's all this personal finance, all personal. The other thing too is you want to pay attention to what type of investor you want to be. If you are somebody that says I want to make my money primarily from dividends, then 30% might make a lot of sense for you. If you're somebody that says I just want something that's solid and I'll take a dividend here or there, then maybe that 10%, 10 to 15% is probably best for you. And we're talking about of all REITs of your total portfolio. And then inside of that 10%, we're talking about 5% for each individual one. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, y'all know I got a whiteboard. I'll break the whiteboard out. Okay, that's not a threat. That's just to help me help you. Okay, so I wish I had some visuals while I'm talking about the pie charts and all that kind of stuff. But feel free to let me know if that works, if that makes sense for you, and then we'll do that video this week. But it's only for the members, so if you ain't in there, you need to get in there. Okay, exclusive videos every single week. You can hit this button right here. There's a button right below the video, and obviously in the description below as well. All right, that's it for me. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.